Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name is Bryan C.P. Steele, and I will be your nerd today, and every other day that you watch my show. Let's see. I would like to kick these off with kind of the week in the life of Bryan. For the most part, my lungs have healed. I know you guys have been watching desperately, listening to me cough up a lung every time I do one of these shows. For the most part, I've gotten better. He says as he coughs psychosomatically. But yeah, no, it's been good. A pretty solid, solidly good week. Nothing crazy, aside from my lovely bride has been sick with the flu most of the week. And today, if I could show you the outside, you would go, "Whoa, it's a winter wonderland!" Because we got dumped on snow last night, and so much so that they gave the kids a snow day today. So I've had to compete with that. Working from home, trials and tribulations. You've already heard me talk about these sorts of things before. But other than that, it's been a good week. I'm still I had heard back about some edits on a Dungeon in a Box project, and myself and that company, the guy who runs that company, we've come to the decision that I might be slowing down some work for that. Might not be pumping out so much stuff in his main storyline, but I'm probably going to be writing up some more. If you're familiar with the Dungeon in a Box company, in the last year he's put out a couple of one-shot boxes that are like holiday-themed special bonuses. I did a Christmas one, I did a Halloween one. It sounds like those have been pretty popular. I'm going to do more of those. Focus on writing a couple more of those. For the Dungeon in a Box guys. I have been putting my nose to the grindstone for the my retaining companies, Big Child Creatives and Crafty Games, getting ready for the summer onslaught. Some of these videos might be, the week in Bryan might be, "It's been a crazy week." A lot more coming up in the future. I've got a lot of stuff coming together. Speaking of which, I can't get into the specifics as of yet because the client has asked me not to. But I was actually, your professional nerd was actually sought out by a client, by a publisher who wants to... who has the license to a game that I'm very familiar with, and wants to have me help out a great deal in getting it off the ground, getting it out in its new and fancy form. Like I said, I can't talk too much about it because of NDAs and all that kind of stuff, but when I can discuss more about it, guess what? You're gonna hear about it here. I'm excited. We'll see how things work. They're a very small company, and we'll figure out just how big of a project this can possibly be going forward. But either way, it'll be neat to be a part of it at the ground floor. So excited about that. Let's see what else. Not much. A little bit of painting, but mostly just writing and getting legal forms and things prepped for some of my companies, or some of the companies I work for. Definitely probably gonna get some painting done tonight after hours. Some of my commissions have stalled out back behind me. I need to get back, focused and motivated. It's just so hard to do when the rest of the house is sick and cold, and going outside is nightmare fuel, And so right now we're gonna drink some coffee out of MODOK's head because MODOK inspires me. All right, so kind of a boring this week in Bryan. Not a lot going on. I wish I had something like that I could talk about that's stellar, but it's just kind of it's a good week in the life of it's a good week in the life of a freelancer when he has projects that he can't talk to you about because it means he has projects. We'll see. Had a good conversation with the graphic guru at Big Child Creatives about a project that I'm working on. Hopefully that will come to fruition sooner rather than later. That'll be cool. I'm just really excited about getting to do so much for so many different people. Like, I know it's not like, as prestigious as running an entire game line or anything like that, but it's nice. It's nice to be able to do these things. It's nice to be able to help out companies get their just desserts when it comes to getting their products out in the world, especially when you've got as cool of products as the companies that I work for. I want people to get involved and enjoy them and get pumped. Let's see. Last weekend I did get to play in a team tournament for Star Wars Legion, and we did well. We there were 3 2-man teams that showed up, so a 6-person tournament effectively. I wish a 4th team would have showed up because then there would have been no waiting around for everyone to play everybody. But also it may have made it easier for the organizer to figure out who won and lost, because frankly the mission system for Star Wars Legion leaves a little bit to be desired. It's a neat sort of you choose one, I choose one, we get the one in the middle. It's a kind of a mix and match kind of randomizer, but the actual scenarios themselves, I'm not terribly fond of it. They lean on reaction rather than proaction. It has less to do with score points early and then hope to hold your opponent off, or it's more like, okay, if I know that we only score on turns 2 and 6, then the rest of the game is me either hiding or going on hold or keeping the opponent away from the objective, and then on 2 and 6, jump, play tag. Because of that, one of their other missions is, at the end of the game, whoever has the most models within, or the most units within the opponent's deployment zone wins. And as a droid player, that mission is easily my favorite, because I just basically can run around shooting stuff and whatever, play a regular solid game, slowly creep forward. But then when it comes to that last turn, and I know that the judge is about ready to call time, it's we've played all the way through, we're at the actual last turn, whatever the case may be, I drop those droidicas into balls, and boom, they're moving halfway across the battlefield, if not further. And I've won that game. I've won Legion twice now with what I call the droidica rush, and I don't like winning games with gimmicks, and that really feels like a gimmick. I just got to hold you to a standstill and get an opening where I know 2 big speed 3 bursts will get me through to the end zone, and then the bell blows and I win because I've got one in my deployment zone and you've got none, and I don't like that. There are better scenarios out there for that game that could be made, and Fantasy Flight is having enough difficulties right now that getting product out and canceling lines, and they seem to be flapping their wings a bit. So I'm hoping that maybe in the future I might be able to even run a tournament or something at the local store. Use some of my scenarios that I would cook up, little ones that are more based on the moment, based on acting rather than reacting. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Either way, I did have a blast, and the tournament, because of the fact that there were so few teams, we ended up being a three-way tie for first place. Everybody won one game, lost one game against the other players, and Fantasy Flight does not have you record down your scores for how well you won or tiebreakers or anything like that. So it was an all-day affair, and we had a lot of fun. We played a lot of games. And the tournament organizer at the end of the day decided, because there was really only one team's worth of first prize stuff, that he was going to just absorb that first place prize into the prize kit for the next tournament that we do. So it is what it is. I still had a good time. I had a blast. We still got some cool special art cards and things just for showing up, and knowing that the next one that he's going to run is going to be very prize heavy. Hopefully I'll have some more toys to be able to play with at that time. So that's pretty much it. Let's see, this upcoming Friday, so if you're watching this on open day tonight, I am gonna get to official playtest the Fallout 2D20 role-playing game. So that'll be fun. One of my buddies is been chomping at the bit to run it for months and months and months, and so now we'll get to see what he's doing. I'm gonna play a robot named Mr. Bernie. I am all energy weapons and flamethrowers and raider attitude. Basically, I'm a pyromaniac Mr. Handy that has replaced several of his limbs with things that catch things on fire. So it should be fun. It's effectively a little one-off playtest beta, but we'll see how this is. It should be a blast. And then on Saturday, it sounds like we're gonna get to play in a D&D game that we haven't played in a while. We're stuck in Ravenloft, and it's been a minute. But it is one of the characters in that game that inspired me to do an earlier episode. I did a DM's tip episode. I don't remember what number it is. But I did one that was how to play the bad guy, how to play a bad guy in a room full of good guys, how to play a clever villain, and that's my character on Saturday. There is no, I can't justify, as a third person omniscient. I can speak my bias and whatever. I can be all coy and be like, well, in his country, but no, he's definitely a bad guy. He's pro draconic slavery, has no qualms about poisoning the innocent, or framing the innocent, poisoning the countryside. He is, I wouldn't necessarily call him a Yuan-Ti supremacist, but he's definitely we have an empire, and the empire needs to grow, and everything else can get knocked aside or crushed under our scaly boots. But he's a friendly guy. He's a nice guy. He likes to sip wine and spend money like it's going out of style, and he is a noble's noble. So we'll see how Saturday goes. I know that chronicle is coming close to an end. So we'll see whether or not my compatriots ever turn on me and ever oh, you dastardly guy. But either way, he's a bad guy, and he is trying to do good things for maybe not the greatest of reasons. And today's episode, segue. Today's episode is more about playing the good guy, as brought to you by the funny t-shirt that I'm wearing currently. It's one of the Armor Class 10 t-shirts, brought to you by my sponsor. They do a series of the D&D alignment shirts. This one is the lawful good. It doesn't mean lawful nice. I also think that you could probably mark out nice and put it doesn't mean lawful stupid. For the longest time, lawful good for D&D players has equated to the Boy Scout. I'm the Dudley Do-Right. The I can abide no evil. Dun, 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 dun. And while a strict code of doing good and doing right by a code of ethics and being on the on the positive side of the moral spectrum, while that does definitely encompass those Boy Scout characters, and it does encompass the I shall do no wrong, I shall not allow any wrongdoings to happen around me, the old school paladin comes to mind. So before I jump down that rabbit's hole, for those of you who've been playing D&D long enough that remember the first time paladins showed up. So paladin has always been, there's been something that's been in writing, like in novels and stories, the idea of the actual knight in shining armor, the holy knight, the knight of the church who does God's work. And in history, things like Knights Templar kind of serve as paladins. And if you look at human history, those guys really weren't good guys. They were doing right by the church. They were doing right by their cardinal and by the leader of their faith. But when it comes to the moral code, they had no problem slaughtering innocent people. There's evidence of cannibalism in the Crusades. Some stuff that generally you don't put, you don't think of. Man, that knight in shining armor paladin guy, I'm surprised he's a cannibal rapist. You don't put that stuff on him. So when D&D came out with these holy knights, they found a way to make sure that they stay as this bright and shining example of this paragon of hope, this all things good in the world type of knight. And that's by putting an alignment restriction on paladins that required them all to be, that's right, lawful good. And what that did is that closed the door on any kind of characterization outside of the goody two-shoes, the do-gooder, the do-gooder paladin, to the point where it even became a fun, almost like a meta prank to see if you can find a way to make the paladin get involved with nefarious deeds, getting involved in morally gray situations, because if it was up to him, it would be, or him or her, it would be cut and dry. This is how it is. This is what my alignment has dictated. This is what my code of honor has said. Have at thee, foul doer. And there are times that those characters are super fun to play. You can't tell me that it would not be an absolute blast to play the full-on, naive about the world Dudley Do-Right paladin. The, no ma'am, I'll take care of this. Your children are obviously hungry. I would eat that up with a spoon. Just to be able to sit in that armor and play that character, even as just like a one shot where you're your party, you just defeat the bandits, and of course, the first thing that most people do is loot the corpses, and no, touch not that of the fallen. Grave robbing is a sin. Oh my god, it would be fantastic. To have a reason to be just this obnoxious voice of law and reason, but also make the character so dedicated and so stodgy that, like, drop off my horse and genuflect and kiss the pommel of the sword and I do my prayers. So give the party a chance to do their thing and loot the bodies and like whatever. Basically almost be comically lawful good, and that's I think that's a fun shtick. But if you think about it, take away the comedy aspect, and that's what Paladins used to be. Paladins used to be absolutely just a bummer because they have this strict code of ethics, and in that version of D&D, if they strayed, if they screwed up, if they broke their oath, if their alignment shifts for whatever reason, they suffered horrible penalties. All of their paladin powers got taken away. If they had like a mystical horse, it vanishes. Their god stops talking to them. They've got to go on like a quest of atonement to get all their stuff back, to prove to their god, hey, no, I'm still the Boy Scout you knew I was. I just slipped up. And while that is all very interesting, good and well, I am super glad that D&D 5th Ed took a different approach. And they took the approach of paladins serve a faith. And sometimes that faith has questionable morals. But as far as the faith is concerned, as far as that deity is concerned, you are a soldier, a staunch soldier of their faith. And I think that makes such a huge difference in the types of paladins you can get out there. I have not had a chance to do so, I would love to play like a half-orc paladin of Grumpsh. Their one-eyed war god. Where he's basically a barbarian. But he's still straight up, he's a paladin. He's got those, holy spells. He is a holy warrior for the one-eyed orc god. Or take it a different way. Play a Triton who's a paladin of one of the sea gods. Where chaos and lightning crackling, and you're doing your god's work. You're doing the faith. You are a soldier of the faith, not a soldier of morality, and that's awesome in my opinion. I think some of those kinds of paladins would be phenomenally played if you decided to really dive into the priesthood, but leave it at that warrior sense, that kind of paladin knightly. Except obviously you don't have to be a knight. You're some kind of backwoods barbarian faith. You're not wearing plate mail and riding around on a shining horse. You're probably you've got like a jagged spear, fur armor, and you're riding around with wild boar, but you're still like a paladin of the wild. That'd be awesome. So today's topic, hence this, is that good doesn't mean that it has to be stupid. You don't have to be good to a fault. Now, I'm about ready to mention something that could be a spoiler for some. So, if you have not read the books or watched the HBO show Game of Thrones, take a second. I'm going to put my hand up now, and then when it goes back up again, you're going to be able to fast forward. When it pops back up again, it means I'm done talking about a spoiler, a pretty big spoiler. So, and now I'm going to talk about spoilers. So, one of the main characters that has kind of always stood out as the Boy Scout, the absolutely law of the land with a good heart is Ned Stark. And he represents basically the honor bound to the point, lawful good. I make the joke of I'm lawful good, but I'm not lawful stupid. Ned Stark is lawful stupid. He is so devoted to his honor and so devoted to his code and the lies that he tells and all these sorts of things that he's willing to have his head chopped off in front of thousands in order to keep his word, in order to stand by the law and order that he wants to protect. And it makes for an amazing character. It makes for just a brutally beautiful, unwanted ruler. Like he does not want to rule. He just wants to live in his house with his family and enjoy himself, but it doesn't happen. And he ends up getting his head lopped off. That's a good example of a lawful good character who has pushed himself to the point where he has put his ethics before his person. And I think that's where lawful good characters sometimes make me mad in D&D, or in any other game where you might have a character who kind of acts that sort of, we've got to be good, you've got to be better, you've got to be, on the moral side of things. No, don't steal. No, don't. Wait, that's a prisoner. You can't kill a prisoner. I get it, but when that's your defining category, like when someone says, okay, well, what are you playing? Well, I'm the paladin, I'm a Boy Scout, or I'm the cleric of good and light, lawful good, not going to abide by any shenanigans taking place. These are things that I think why I generally don't like games that have an alignment system. I lean away from it because I think that sentient beings, barring things that are written to have specific, stuff about them, I think sentient beings have more give and take. You have evil moments, you have good moments, you've got moments that, the law fits for what you're trying to do, and then there's times where, you make that you make the choice to break that law. And in a game that's got set alignments, it's very easy sometimes to go, no, my character can't do that. Not won't, mind you, can't. And that's a big thing, is if you're saying your character can't do that, and there's not like some kind of magical restraint on him or her, like some kind of mind control device or something along those lines, then what you're doing is that you're letting the game's rules dictate what you're allowed to do. And that's not okay. The game's rules are supposed to rein in what you do and tell you whether or not it's successful and that sort of thing. But it shouldn't make the choices for you, barring special circumstances. And if you say, I would love to run into that cave and deal with those bad guys while they're sleeping, but it's dishonorable, and I've decided that my lawful good character won't do that sort of dishonor. I'm going to stand to the front of the cave and I'm going to blow my war horn and call them out to challenge me as a knight of the realm or whatever. And if that's the case, if you're doing something that your character, what you've built this character, and you're afraid of the rule set because it's got this moral code or it's got this alignment system, then maybe you need to talk to your game master, talk to your dungeon master, and say, I think that the alignment is a little too restrictive. Or maybe ask them the situation, be like, hey, if I would have done this, would you have forced me into an alignment change? Would you have changed my my character's mentality overall if I went this way? And sometimes that could be a yes, and sometimes it'll be like, well, no, it's a little one-off thing. But the just the sheer need to have that kind of label in an action is what will keep a lot of players from stretching from reaching for the extra bit of drama for, oh, we better take it, we better keep it safe. If we push on too hard, we could kill our horses, and we're not going to let that happen because these horses have been prized for us forever, and killing them would be, knowingly murdering our horses would be against my code or whatever. What you end up doing is you pen yourself in to a certain set of behaviors, a certain set of actions that you can't get out of. And when that happens, you're left with almost like a clerical example of playing the game. Well, I'm a good guy, so I'm going to go do the good guy things. And, I started this out by saying that it would be fun to play that kind of character, that Dudley Do-Right style character, but literally doing so kind of tongue-in-cheek, sort of over the top, and knowing that I'm going to create loopholes and that I'm going to find ways to make sure that the rest of my party isn't hindered by my sheer presence, that it's an enhancement to the experience, a role-playing moment, or a fun combat experience where I'm knocking guys out, and I'm imploring the other characters to do the same. Please use the flat of your blade, Sir Johnson. We want them to be able to talk to us. So yeah, basically, some of my favorite good guys in comics and movies. So tomorrow, by the way, or I guess today, the new Harley Quinn movie shows up. I got her little Suicide Squad figure, but she's actually a pretty good example of lawful good. Definitely not. She's 100% not lawful good. But they've really, the DC as a company have really steered her away from her evil roots. She used to be a dastardly sidekick of the Joker, but she was in on his deadly pranks, his setting up to blow up buildings and stuff like that. She was down. She was right totally happy when people get hurt, she's definitely not a good character, but they are trying to steer her into a more anti-hero, into a more I'm doing this for better reasons than just, oh, Mr. J told me to, or we need a heist. She's starting to have moral dilemmas. She's, in this movie at least, it seems like she's trying to keep Black Mask from kind of taking over the rest of Gotham as a criminal underground. Now, whether that's because she wants to use it for herself, I don't know. I haven't seen the movie yet. But these are the actions. Stopping the bad guy are the actions of a good character, and I think some of the more intriguing heroes as of late are the ones that are tested constantly. Test their moral code. Do they just blow up the building and walk away? Probably not looking at it, because cool guys never look at explosions. Are they gonna blow the building up, knowing that that is all munitions, it was all owned by the bad guy? Ha ha ha! I struck a blow for righteousness and good. And then after the fact, they find that building was filled with squatters. You inadvertently killed 10 people. That could be a huge blow to someone who thinks themselves a hero. One of my favorite comic book heroes is Superman, is Kal-El, and they instill in him the good of this process of hey, being a good person is important, being a good superhero is important, but make sure that first does not get lost in the second. And they like seeing the, the anguish in Kal-El's face, or like you read it in his dialogue boxes when his moral code is either put to the test, or if he fails a moral judgment. Um, I think it was Jack Kirby that said it. I'd have to look up the quote, but when you take a character who is as physically invulnerable as Superman, the only way to hurt him is through his heart and mind, is through emotional pain. And some of my favorite Superman comics are not the ones where he's, getting blasted through buildings with single punches, or taking on, giant monsters in the ocean. It's the ones where there's a couple of YouTube clips, or not YouTube clips, Google image clips from these comics that you should go find, where Superman talks to a girl on a ledge. She's getting ready to jump, and he basically spells out how hard it is for him. How that you think you've got it rough. I get it. Being the world's most go-to savior has its downfalls. It's not. I have to. I hear people asking for help all the time, but I've got to gauge who can I go to, who can't I go to. The scene in Man of Steel, I know a lot of people give that movie grief, where he is forced to break Zod's neck, because Zod has at that point basically said, I'm not going to ever stop hurting these people you love, these humans. I'm never going to stop killing these humans, because you killed my race. I'm going to kill you. You killed my chance at a new home. I'm going to kill your new home, is basically what Zod says. And the look of wish it weren't so on Cal's face right before, and then the scream, that the just the neck bulging anguish of what did I just do, is palpable. And that's such a big characterization moment that I think so many people get lost in their own versions of characters. And Superman doesn't kill anybody, Batman doesn't kill anybody, that they they forget the dramatic impact of what that would be on someone who doesn't, for the most part, kill, who really wants to be the hero, who wants to live up to what his dad raised him to be, who wants to be the hero that everyone looks up to, that everyone is demanding savior, or to be saved with. He wants to be that, but he's always going to fall short. And in a spectacular, powerful moment, it's, have I gone too far? Is it all for naught? Can I be the hero these people want me to be when this is what I had to do? And that's the kind of stuff that I think a good guy character in a role-playing game, I think that's the stuff that could really cross that dramatic role-playing gap. I know there might be some people out there that are like, role-playing drama, what? We don't role-play, R-O-L-E, we role-play, R-O-L-L. And if that's the case, then yeah, maybe some of these DM tips aren't for you, because you might not necessarily care about what your onboard Boy Scout is dealing with, or the heroic knight. You might not give a damn when they're forced to kill somebody, or when someone, like a prisoner, breaks free of his bonds and throws themselves on his sword. Like, these are moments that, yeah, as a game master, as a dungeon master, you can go in and make that happen. But when they happen naturally, when they happen fluidly and organically as the game progresses, it's even better. It's like you can almost like sit back as a DM and just be like, I don't know why I run this game. They've got it under control. That's what I'm saying, is you could you can create these moments with these characters that take the fact that they are good people, that they are the pinnacles of morality for your game set, that and you can use that as a way to make them more than just numbers on a page or words in a bracket. I also, the namesake of this show, the good doesn't make you stupid, or good doesn't mean stupid. That just because your character's alignment says I won't abide by slavery, or these people are obviously under the nightly predation of the local vampire king. If you know for a fact that you don't have the upper hand, he's probably more powerful than you. He may even know you're coming. Why would you think that it's an okay thing to do, even as a lawful good character, to throw it all away and take on this suicide mission, especially if you have to watch your friends come along and die with you? Yeah, there's exceptions to that. Sometimes it's a cool dramatic moment when, the kitchen goes to explode and the kids have just gotten away, or whatever. But overall, it just basically is window dressing for the larger, for the main characters, the ones that will continue on with or without you. I think that those moral choices almost become, I don't want to say comic relief, that's not the right word, but they definitely become a facet of the game's fun, is finding a way to make the good guy uncomfortable, or find a way to get the good guy to accidentally help you. And what are you going to do? If you're the good guy and your party is filled with less than good guys, you're either going to adapt and figure out where that line is. What are you comfortable with? I'm not comfortable with murdering people in an alley, but I'm okay with breaking and entering into someone's house if they're not home. One of the best things that 5th Ed did for D&D is it kept the alignment system for a quick brush of this is what your character's heart says, or creature, or whatever. But what it did is that it removed the requirements of those alignments from its various classes. That means no more necessarily lawful good paladin. You get a paladin who worships a god that isn't so goody two shoes. You've got barbarians that could have a code of law, instead of being a force of anarchy all the time. You could have I would love to be a lawful good rogue, to be a champion of the people, from the level of the people on up, doing good stuff at the street level, taking out bad guys. That would be kind of cool. But it doesn't mean that you couldn't also do it as neutral good. You couldn't also do it as one of the harder, heavier impacting races or classes. There's all kinds of not classes, backgrounds. There's all kinds of stuff you can accomplish if your moral code is just the overarching brush of what you do, not the, oh my god, I have to, everything I do, what, there's helpless people in the barn 10 miles away, looks like we're riding to the barn. Be smart about it. Don't, unless you're trying to do the character like I was talking about earlier, the Dudley Do Right style character, unless you're trying to be that guy, And if you're trying to be that guy, warn your fellow players. Let them know that you're being that guy, so they can try and figure out workarounds, figure out how to fool you into not paying attention when they do things. Whatever, hey, why don't you go, stable up the horses across town where the inn is while we wrap up here. All right, get out the torches and the knives and stuff. While the paladin's gone, we're gonna take care of this. Again, I go back to the whole Batman and Superman thing. There is a point where even the bright and shiniest good guy should have a moral quandary. Do I do this? It shouldn't be always without question, always this, it's the right thing to do, always this. There should be something that maybe you insert kind of the situation, or man, my party members are going to go into this. I can't condone doing this, but I can't let them go in by themselves. I'm not going to. I won't fight against the monks inside the temple because I think it's wrong that we're breaking into the temple. I'll probably heal him if I get a chance. But I'm not going to let my comrades in arms down by not going in. It also, you're super lawful good character doesn't mean that you're naive. It doesn't. Just because you're a good guy, it doesn't mean that you're, gonna be. Oh look, a bandit! It went right around the corner. What? Have at thee, knave! Dun, 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 dun. The wonderful people, the actors at Zombie Orpheus, the guys who did the Gamers 2, Gamers 3. There is a scene, I believe, in Gamers 2 where the super Dudley Do-Right good guy paladin is in the room when they are trying to interrogate this bad guy. And every time that they get ready to try and interrogate the bad guy, the paladin basically steps into the room and stops them. But no, we're not torturing an unarmed man. And someone in the scene points out the window. The shadow is over there. And he's just, you hear a dice roll off the, off camera. And the paladin picks up his sword. Have at thee! And runs off after him. A few minutes later of questioning, paladin comes back. He must have gotten away. It. While that's humorous in a comedy movie, in a game, if I was playing that lawful good character and my teammates, my party were consistently casting spells or doing weird skill uses or whatever to make sure that I didn't mess things up, I would probably, as a player, be annoyed. One of those, quit taking away all my options. You don't know what I'm going to do. You don't know what I'm going to say. Quit making it so I can't do anything but these things. Or, depending on the circumstance, you take the paladin out of the situation. I'm going to go walk around the building. I'm going to go and patrol. All of what you've got going on here is madness. And then hopefully, everything will be able to fit back together seamlessly. But the key, I think, to making sure that your good guys are believable and that they're not, unless you're trying to, that they're not dumb, that they're not stupidly good or lawful stupid, is be willing to discuss. And that is probably the number one role-playing moment that I've ever had in any years of gaming that I can remember, and it's happened several times, is where the player who has just taken the capture, or the character who has scooped up all the loot and is now saying, "No, I don't have any coins." You know, the fallout from those things, from those events, are probably some of the more uncomfortable moments during game, but also some of the most fruitful role-playing exchanges, especially if you're a character who, maybe you're talking to a town guard, you're talking to the magistrate, because he's talking about your cellmate, your buddy over there got caught doing this thing. Is, you're not supposed to lie. We know that. But if it's the only way for you to be able to get through this moment or to highlight this moment, then go ahead and do it. You dig up the little buttons, you press the thing, so everything lights up on you, and now you have your podium moment, you have your stadium moment where you explain your part of the plan, and no matter how crazy it is, you guys should probably give it a shot, because you guys have worked real hard to get where you're at, and you want to show them that being the good guy has its privileges. I think also a good way to make sure that good characters do not get lost in their own morality is don't offer them up softball tests. Don't set the orphanage on fire. Have it just be a warehouse. There's 5 dead nuns in the street. Well, hopefully he was only able to kill one around, because I want to go after the bad guy. I don't want to sit there and try and help out all these nuns. But if I am the super good, I'm going to stop and I'm going to administer healing on all these nuns, whether they're and find out whether or not they're dead. So it's, I don't know. There are so many good examples of good characters, heroes, that have moments of tragic backslip, have errors in judgment. Most recently, I rewatched the amazing DC Comics movie Aquaman, and there is the very beginning of the movie where he's fighting Black Manta and his dad. He leaves Black Manta and his dad. He leaves his dad pinned to the side of a submarine that's slowly sinking, and he leaves and basically says, take it up with the ocean. Very, very gruff. Ugh. But he's still the good guy. He came and saved a submarine full of or a nuclear submarine full of Russians. But he's obviously still rough around the edges, and quite obviously willing to break, maim, and potentially murder bad guys that get in his way. And then later on, you fast forward to him and Mara in the Italian square, and he's appreciating art. He's watching her. He's saying he's apologizing to people who's in bedrooms he smashes through. It is nice to see that he is a hero first and foremost that battles evil. But he still takes the time to make sure that people don't look at him like, oh, just another superhero that's here to screw up our lifestyle or to break our entire town. But he's a good guy who's very capable of stabbing somebody with his trident. He has no qualms about putting someone in their misery, putting them down. And that's where I think that's a great topic to kind of wrap things up on how good guys don't necessarily have to be stupid or stupidly good. Is morals tend to be malleable. My moral code is different than my wife's moral code, which is different than her mom's moral code, who's different than so forth and so on. And to try and label it, to say, well, all lawful good characters do this. Blah. But maybe my lawful good character doesn't want to do that. Does that make me not lawful good? No, it means that you've got one extra part, a French fry or one of your sides from the order that doesn't mesh well with what you've got going on, and time to change it up. Time to don't let it get you down, but let's get back at it. And the moral dilemma there is, frankly, as a good guy, can I do momentarily evil things or questionable things from someone else's perspective? Whose perspective am I good? Whose perspective am I evil? And for the most part, in a D&D book, it's got it kind of spelled out, but it's spelled out in a way, here I'm going to read the alignment section, it's spelled out in a way that gives room for 122. It gives room for slight alterations to character, and that makes it extremely difficult to use a alignment system for what it's worth. So I'm going to just run down here real quick. We're getting to the end of the show, but like, we've got they have a sentence here that the old school versions of the alignments used to have a hierarchy of sins next to it. Used to be like, you can't do this, 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 and this. You must do this, this, and this if you want to stay lawful good. Now, all of that stuff has been wrapped up into basically one column of text. Lawful good creatures can be counted on to do the right thing as expected by society. Now, that leaves me open to believe, whose society? Dark Elf society is dramatically different than, say, Gnomish society. I think it means the society for your character, for where you're from, what you've experienced, your social cues. Neutral good folk do the best they can to help others according to their needs. According to their needs. Again, kind of vague. It's, I'll help them, but really only however much they need. Chaotic good creatures act as their conscience directs, with little regard for what others expect. That's open. That is the most open, the ends justify the means that you can ever get in a D&D alignment. Lawful neutral individuals act in accordance with the law, tradition, or personal code. Now that, and so that means that it is more important to uphold tradition, uphold the honor code, than it is to be good or evil. Neutral is the alignment for those who prefer to steer clear of moral questions and will not take sides, doing what seems best at that time. Again, you can have a neutral character that's a good guy who does bad things, or a neutral character who is completely neutral but then gets into a situation where, all right, doing the right thing is the way to go. So you can find ways to make just about anybody good guys. Chaotic neutral creatures follow their whims, holding their personal freedom above all else. Now, you can be free as a bird and hold your personal freedoms up to the heavens like an offering and be chaotic neutral and still be a good guy. It just means you have that sort of whisper in the back of your head that says you can go off at any moment. you can go a little crazy if you want to. And then the last three, the lawful evil, neutral evil, and chaotic evil, I'm not even going to really point out how those can be good guys, because that's sort of an anathema. They might be able to do good things, but more than likely they're doing them for their own purposes, their own agenda. But that's effectively it. You know, the alignment codes for 5th Ed, they give you a decent window. They give you an opportunity to role play those moral quandaries, but you can be a hero. You can be a good guy. You can be the adventurer that's trying to save the day without being naive to the world around you or ignorant of how the world works or how life works. You can still find a way to play that heroic character, to play that good guy, even maybe good to the point of dramatic, without necessarily making them an idiot or forcing them into bad decisions. Basically, my code is, if you have a choice, figure out whether or not you're doing it for the character or you're doing it to appease your alignment. And if you're just doing it to appease your alignment, rethink that action, because it might be awesome, might be exactly what you want to do, but it also might not be. If you're doing it to specifically help out a facet of the character's inner workings, good, bad, or ugly, it doesn't matter. You're role-playing your character, and that's fantastic. So, speaking of role-playing, I got a bunch of that to do this weekend. I'm going to go see Harley and the Birds of Prey. So should you. Don't really know what I'm going to do next week yet. I might have a hobby rig day. We'll see. See what else comes up over the course of the week. But go out there, stay warm, and just like I'm going to do, have fun, and you know how it is. Play some games. See you later.